The biggest and baddest people are handicapped and crippled by the limiting beliefs, the things that they tell themselves. And that's why I say the biggest disability is a bad mindset. It's not this body. That's how I want to shift people's perspective, is realizing like, man, this guy's got no legs and one arm, but he's doing all these amazing things, and letting people know like, you have everything inside of you to do whatever you need, but you need to get this right. Your operating system, your computer system, through the simulation that we live in, whatever it may be. I just want people to realize like they have everything inside of them to do whatever they need to do. You know, over the 23 years of my life, I've realized that it's not this. It's not this physical body. You know, people can see me on the street and be like, wow, look how disabled that guy is. And I'm like, pfft. Have you seen your mindset? Like, have you seen the way you operate? Like, have you seen the way that you react to situations, that you're pissed off in traffic, that you think the world is happening to you? Like, I'm not disabled, like you're handicapped. And to let people know that, you know, that the world's happening for you and not to you. But my whole thing is like the victim mentality. Like, I went from victim to victor, realizing we can play off of every situation. Right now, we're floating through plane energy, and someone comes up to you and calls you a name. It's up to you whether you react in a negative way or a positive way. People are pissed off that they're in traffic, but you realize that you woke up today and you're breathing. Because it's like the Charlie Brown effect. Your mom tells you to do your homework, and you're like, eh. Your dad tells you to do your homework, like, eh. And then Uncle Nick comes over, and I'm just like, yeah, let's do your homework. And you're like, yeah, like, oh, doing homework's the coolest thing. It takes a different person from a different walk of life with a different perspective to really break through that barrier, especially through all the priming, right? No matter how long you've been priming and programming your brain, like, it takes someone to come in and just boom, just throw some perspective and totally break through that wall and get you to look at the world differently. So I want people to realize, like, you know, Nelson Mandela has this quote, in life I don't lose, I only win or learn. If people can realize, like, so many people think they've lost, but if you just pull one piece of information that's good, whether it's a different perspective, extracting knowledge, a different way to go about life, a different way to not fall on your face, like, that's winning. And that was always my thing, is like, as long as I try my best, as long as I attempt it, then, you know, that's not failing. Because there's a lot of people in life, whether it's in their personal life or in their business life, and they sit on the sideline and they're like, man, I don't have the resources, I can't build a business. Or I'm not old enough, I don't have the knowledge. Or I'm too old that I can't build a business. And I always tell people, I'd much rather be in the trenches. I'd much rather be on the field than sitting on the sideline wasting time and thinking, man, I can't do that. So my whole view of life is like, I would try everything. My thing is like, why not? I knew from an early age, they actually put me on the Today Show when I was 13, and I told Ann Curry, and I was like, in my squeaky voice, I was like, you know, failure is your best friend, and you know, you learn by falling on your face and getting back up. And I've learned that just through life in itself. Whether it was getting on a chair, or whether it was trying to put my clothes on or feed myself, everything was challenging at first. I'm not gonna sit here and say I was perfect at everything, like I just figured out my way. No, like things were hard, you know? That was always my mindset of like, things are gonna be hard, but I'm going to learn from me falling on my face. Like I'm gonna pick up and say, what can I do differently so I don't fall on my face next? And so with going into wrestling, I'm very competitive. Like, I'm a competitive person, and I don't want people to hold back on me. I never wanted people to hold back on me. If I was gonna lose, I was gonna lose like a champion, right? And so, you know, I told and it was easier because it was my best friends, but I was like, guys, like, please don't hold back on me. I don't want you to feel bad. Like, my arm's all good. Like, we can beat everything up. Like, just do what you need to do. Even in those low moments of getting my butt kicked, I'm pouring sweat, I'm laying in other people's sweat, but if I can look over to my friends and crack a smile, that will just motivate them and drive them. So it was kind of like the accountability group, but if someone was down, we'd lift them up, and if I was down, people would lift me up, and that's how I got through wrestling, because it was super hard. And my senior year, I was able to be the 106-pound varsity wrestler for my high school. But the wrestling just showed me how much I could push myself physically and mentally, and when I was on the mat, that it was just one-on-one. And I want, you know, if I lost, I lost like I went out with a battle. Like I didn't lose easily. Like we said before, like I know everything's gonna be hard. And I feel like when, like even now kids or some people, if they quit because things are hard, they just haven't done uncomfortable things enough. They haven't got out of their comfort zone enough and experienced, you know, what that discomfort is. And so now for me, it's just, I know everything's gonna be challenging. The majority of not only entrepreneurs, but human beings, like we start off with can't. Like the majority of people are like, oh, you can't do this because this, and this. And it's like, humans are very disempowering creatures. Like if we don't catch our thoughts, if we don't catch our patterns, if we don't catch the things that come out of our mouth, if they're negative, like we need to switch that. And so now me, like my guys, everything is how. Like, how are we gonna do this? How are we gonna, you know, get through this problem? And let's reverse engineer everything. That's how I do it now, is just figuring out, you know, what is our strengths? That's the one thing I've realized, like I'm 23 years old And starting a company, I didn't go to college. So I'm learning as I go. And that's the whole thing, is like I'm a student of the game, and I realize that I only know what I know, and I'm only 23, and there's so much to learn, and I'm just going to learn by throwing myself in the waters and like figuring out how to swim. And so, especially in business, the one thing I realized is like a good leader puts people where they excel. They put people where they prosper. And so it's like figuring out like what are your strengths and what are you good at, and let's put people there, and then like delegate or outsource your weaknesses. And I think it's funny because in the school systems it's total opposite. It's actually like, what are your weaknesses? Let's go work on this. And then like entrepreneurship is like, let's double down on our strengths and like outsource our weaknesses. I always just had limiting beliefs that I wasn't smart and wasn't good enough, but now like I'm reattaching a better meaning to like learning and like self-education. And so like reading more books and realizing like all the knowledge is here, and I just need to apply myself and actually apply myself into something that I enjoy or something that we're focusing on. Yeah. And so I've kind of like, got over that, like the old me of I suck at school, to like, I'm just going to read books and like write notes, and I'm going to learn that way. And that's how I'm going to ride. Like, I'm not going to have like a pain behind learning. The things people need is like significance, like people that are significance driven, and uncertainty and certainty. And what I've realized is that I replace, maybe significance with my number one core value is contribution. The majority of people immediately think like money, like, oh, giving money, but like there are so many ways that you can contribute. And I realized that, you talk about success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure, right? Like being successful but not being fulfilled. I mean, I know that we've been around so many people with mass amounts of money and there's still something missing because their core values aren't aligned. They're not aligned with their purpose. And so I moved contribution to my top core value. And so now, any way I can help. Another core value of mine is longevity. I'm not here for quick fixes. A lot of people in the entrepreneurship world, you're growing up the day and age that we live in, everyone's looking for quick fixes. What can I get out of this person? What's the value, And for me, I'm here for the long game. How can we continuously help each other build? Because like winners don't hate on other winners. We just want to see other people win. And so how can I just provide longevity relationships and nurture those relationships? I think that, in business, relationships are like key. Right? Like just like everything. And so how can I nurture those relationships? So contribution and longevity were my big switches. And also being a student of the game is like a core value, and personally and professionally. And being a student of the game, what that means is like you are always in the mode of like, I can learn something from every situation, whether that person's like the janitor or the CEO, right? But that requires you to drop your ego. And so I also learned about ego and how that can take control. And so like student of the game mentality is like you dropping your ego, realizing like I only know what I know, and I'm here to learn from every experience, whether I don't like it, whether I do like it. Like I used to hate constructive criticism, but then I realized it's like one of the most powerful things, and like that's my ego getting in the way and saying like, oh, I'm too good for someone to say that. Like, no, you're not. Like, dude, you're only 22, 23 years old. Like, what do you know? Like, kind of just putting myself back down to earth and being like, dude, just be a sponge. So many people are trying to seek validation from other people. They're trying to be working on relationships with girls, or trying to, seek validation from other things and Instagram and materialistic things. And when the biggest relationship that they should be working on is the one within themselves. That's what everybody needs to be working on. Like, start little. Fitness was a huge thing for me. Now it's a staple of my life. It's something that has instilled so much in confidence in me because I wasn't comfortable in my skin. The one thing I realized is like, I can't change no legs and one arm, but I can get a six pack. I can feel a little bit more comfortable in my body. Well, if I get in shredded and people are looking at my muscles, maybe they're not looking at my finger and my weird arm or whatever I thought at that time. And so I say start little. Say that is, I'm gonna wake up 15 minutes earlier this whole week, and you do it, boom, like great job. Or I'm gonna do yoga, or I'm gonna go to the gym, this amount of times, or I'm gonna eat healthy. Whatever those little goals are for you, start little and then work your way up, because humans love the feeling of progress. And I've realized looking back at my days, like my lowest days, my most like darkest days are the days where like I'm sitting around too long and I'm not doing much. I'm not moving the needle forward in any area of my life. I'm kind of being like a bum. And so I always tell people it's a good thing I have one finger, the one finger technique. And that is doing one thing today that you know is going to evolve you into a better human being. And that could be a big thing, but it could be a small thing too, like knowledge. It could be, I read 10 pages of a book today and I evolved. I learned a little bit more than I did today, or I asked that question, I learned something. Like, people need to start small, whatever area you're at in your life, but just start small. So I would tell people to set these little micro goals. And just commit. And then every time you commit and you don't follow through, you're diminishing yourself, like your self-integrity, the value. Like, how do you value yourself? How do you want to show up? Don't diminish your self-value. If you say you're going to commit to something, follow through. Say you're going to go to the gym 30 days straight, and you do it for 30 days straight, go to the spa. Like, go do something, go treat yourself. But I think if you're the person that, commits to something and you continuously derail, add like a time limit on it and add a consequence. Maybe manipulate yourself and say, well, this is a consequence. I'm gonna have to read 30 pages of a book, but really it's benefiting you. If you need the guardrails, then add consequences. But if you're continuously just ripping through it, I would say just, add those rewards. But it's also okay to say like, wow, maybe that goal was massive. Let's set these little stepping stones so I can get to that goal. Don't like totally beat yourself up if you don't do it, but like realize maybe you need to set little smaller intentions or smaller steps. I just want people to continuously be the victors of their life and realize that life is all about perspective. The lens we look through, like you can have that victim, you can look at things and be the victim, or you can look at things and see all the positive in the world. And the fact that we're literally spinning on a rock in the universe, well, we call it the universe, we don't really know what it is, but we're literally spinning on a rock right now, and we have the ability to be conscious and experience the human experience, which is wild. Like we're actually alive, and like right now as we're talking, like we can't feel the blood that's rushing through our left ear right now because that's just life. Like life is absolutely wild, and when people, I always say if people can just reflect like at least once a day on the fact that like we're on this rock and it's spinning around and we don't really know what's going on, but we're here, like you'd be hesitant to complain about traffic or the fact that your leg hurts because something else in the grand scheme of the universe is going on that's way worse than what you have going on. Even me, a man with no legs and one arm, I ain't got no problems.